Thank you, Justin, for the nice introduction. I want to thank all of you for coming today to hear me speak. I think a lot of people have an interest, in maybe not only in falconry, maybe not only in falcons. And I'm here today to tell you more of a story about how these species interact with us as humans throughout history for the past, 3,000 years, if not more. The interaction between human and these top predators, and how these top predators are indicators for our environment that we live in today, and what are the effects of it. And mostly, in specific, is the Gulf falconry, because this part of the world is a main hub for all the falcons that are bred in captivity in the world. They all come to the Middle East, they all come to the Gulf country. And I will explain why that is happening. So, what is falconry? Throughout history, falconry is very simple. It is the use of a bird of prey to hunt with and catch. This is the layman's term of what falconry is. It's just the use of a bird to catch, another animal as a food source. The history of falconry in the United Arab Emirates is of a significant importance. As you all know, the United Arab Emirates, or the Trucial States, as they were called before, relied on a very small diet. Fish, dates, and whatever meat they could catch with a falcon. And that tradition has continued all the way up to the 1960s here in the United Arab Emirates as well. Our customs, we used to trap these birds from their migratory path from the north going south in the winter time. So say about September or October. And then in February or March, we would release the falcons we caught in the wild back into the wild, where they would migrate back up north and start breeding again. And the cycle goes every single year. And that was a way to maintain the wild population of falcons in the world. It is of a cultural importance because also with us, these falcons lived with us in our homes. We would spend the night next to a falcon to try to tame them, and it was a very long taming process. And the connection between a predator and a human being starts to develop through that time. And the traditional practices of falconry and the development of falconry on what it is today has all started many thousands of years. So a lot of these things I'm going to say, they're not new. They've been happening over and over again for thousands of years. The modernization of falconry has happened very quickly and very rapidly. I would say our generation has been very fortunate to have seen the old way of falconry, the traditional ways of falconry, and the modernization of the sport, or the art as it's called today. The things that have modernized it in a very fast way is, of course, the gunpowder, firearms. The discovery of oil and its impact in the Gulf was a significant impact on falconry and the way we did that. Captive breeding projects that have arisen throughout the world from the 1970s until today has had a huge impact on falconry and the way it's been practiced. And I will explain more about it. So, with the discovery of oil, more falcons were purchased. So these falcons were, instead of them being trapped in their migratory path, they would go to their sources, which is in Asia, Northern Asia, and start trapping them there or catching them there to bring them in. So the number of falcons and falconers have increased significantly after the discovery of oil, as well as instead of hunting on camelback, which you could have a very limited time or travel area, into hunting with vehicles, which can cover much larger ground as well. Captive breeding projects were made for a need. Captive breeding projects for falcons have started in the 70s. Why? Because they have realized chemical composition such as DDT was affecting the falcons or the top predators as well. And this is what I meant about, how the falcons are on the top of the food chain. They are a top predator. If there is a decline in any population from a top predator, you will know, following it down in the food chain and the food structure, there is something wrong in the environment. So when they trace down the eggshells being so thin, the peregrine or falcons could not incubate their eggs anymore, they would break in incubation. People started to realize, okay, why is this happening? And when they started to trace back the chemical bioaccumulation of DDT, they had found out that a pesticide that was used for agricultural purposes and other things affected top predators. So the ban of DDT happened in the end of the 1960s. And in the 70s, breeding projects started to emerge to save these species from the endangered species list. And I would like to point out the people that have started captive breeding projects were falconers, first and foremost. It was not a government entity, it was not a ministry, it was only individual falconers. They collaborated together and said, hey, we like our birds, we want our birds to increase, and they joined together to create, to save the peregrine falcon. And it started in the United States with the help later on from Cornell University. Telemetry was another significant impact on falcons. Telemetry has really changed the way we hunt with these birds. Now we can release them for longer hours. We can trace and track them where they go and where they come. Their migratory path, with the wild falcons, we'll put a GPS tracking system on it and see their migratory path. So a lot of the data started to come in, and we would understand more about falcon migration, where they go, where they hunt, what time of year, and that gave us a lot of data that we can analyze later and develop. So, the breeding facilities. Like I said, the peregrine falcon was added in the endangered species list in the 1970. 1972, DDT was banned. And by the mid-70s, the breeding project successfully released falcons back into the wild. And that all started in the United States and moved to Europe and other parts of the world. And today as well, with the help of the government of Abu Dhabi, they started releasing shaker falcons, in Asia and Mongolia. And it took them about 20 years. And that was because of the efforts of the falconers. The ban on the chemical composition of DDT has helped within 20 years get the species removed from the endangered species list. So this was a great effort and a very successful effort on returning the falcons back into the wild to be least vulnerable. This was in 1995. I was a very young man then. Sheikh Zayed, Allah yarhamah, has ordered the release of wild falcons, or to bring back the wild falcons to Abu Dhabi And they would take these wild falcons and release them back in their home countries for breeding. And this, for me personally, was a huge turning point. I had just started witnessing what a captive bred falcon was. When I was young, when I was coming up, all I knew was wild falcons. That's what I knew how to train. This is what I knew how to hunt with. I knew how to tame and how to befriend it. So when these captive bred falcons came over, it was something completely different. I had never in my life seen a falcon with feathers so perfect. The sizes were beautiful. The colors were unbelievable compared to my wild falcon that has had UV radiation since day one. So to me, that made me ask a question: why? Yeah, why are we asked to give our prized possessions of a wild falcon to be released again? Why can't we trap them anymore? The numbers are coming better. And that actually took me a long time to figure out. And it is only because I kept asking questions and how to improve and why these things are happening. And this is the thing. There is a difference between a wild-caught falcon and a captive-bred falcon. So my first experience seeing a captive-bred falcon in action was, very horrible. The captive-bred birds, although they looked nice, they could not fly when they were first imported into the country. They ran, they didn't fly. The wild falcons could do everything, but a captive-bred bird couldn't. And that automatically became the stereotype of all captive-bred falcons, somewhat until today. But that also made me ask another question. Why are these birds acting the way they are? What is missing in their development? We know a traditional way of flying the birds. We fly them to the lure. And once they are set to the lure, and the training the basics, which is the tilwah. We'll call them in the lure, for a week or so on, and hey, let's go hunting. And we'll take these birds and go hunting. And these birds know how to develop, how to fly, how to catch, and to do everything, except a captive-bred bird. That took us a long time to understand how to train these captive-bred birds. So we are still doing the same thing. This is the flying to the lure, one of the old videos. And as you can see, the falcon is coming, the lure is swung, and the falcon will come, stoop to the lure 3-4 times. Hey, he comes back when I call him. So now I can start hunting with this bird. And they are successful. With the captive-bred birds of today, it is different. Their flight capabilities are much less. And we'll tell you what we have realized and we have seen with the captive-bred birds as well. So this is like our realization of the fact and the matter, written down on paper. Because you want to remove all the assumptions on, okay, what are the differences and why? So with a wild falcon that's being trapped, their natural development is very high. So they develop naturally in nature perfectly. Compare that to how a captive-bred bird is raised. They have no natural development. They are bred either in an incubator or in a laboratory or somewhere. So they don't have a natural way from day one. Their social behavior. Falcons have absolutely no social behavior towards humans. We love these birds. We tame them down more than any other animal we have. But they're still not tame. They're not social. The wild falcons are. They only learn to tolerate us. And this is something that we were not aware of back in the day. Yes, the falcon is tame. The falcon is quiet. I can pick him up. I can go in a majlis. I can sit down. And the bird is not baiting, is not stressed or anything. But in actual fact, these wild animals are stressed. They are so stressed, in fact, that they do not speak to you. Captive bred birds, social behavior, okay, I've said, it's variable and unknown because we do not know, or some of us did not know, how these birds were interacted with each other when they were growing up. And there is a lot of factors that we don't know about. I said about the tameness. The wild falcons are wild, regardless of how long you keep them in captivity. You keep them for 10 years or 20 years. These are wild animals. They should go back in nature. The tameness of captive bred birds is a different story. Yes, they are much tamer. Their stress levels are much lower. And these are the birds you can use in breeding projects. Because the number one factor of wild animals not breeding in captivity is stress. So eliminate the stress from a captive bred bird and you can have a successful breeding project that way. Risk of loss of a falcon. Telemetry did help with the retrieval of many, many birds, thousands of birds. A wild falcon will always want to go back to the wild. Any way he can, any hour of the day, any second, he's always baiting off the perch, trying to escape confinement. Captive bred birds, they don't know the wild, so they are more relaxed on a perch. You will see them taking a bath or drinking water and be a lot more calm around it. But these are the realization we started to see. Flight as well, the development of captive bred birds, we had to work twice as hard to get captive bred birds to hunt. So instead of calling them to the lure like the previous video I showed you, we had to wake up twice a day. Morning and evening. Morning and evening. Some people will try to put a time slot in between as well. This is where we started weighing the food we give to these birds. Because if we give them too much, they're not going to come to the lure later on. If we give them too little, then you won't get the performance that you need. And this has led to training innovations. With captive bred birds, we started to innovate a lot of the things in training these birds. So our lure method was no longer satisfactory. We needed to push them more, we needed to push them harder, we needed them to start to learn how to fly, how to chase, how to hunt, how to become predators. Because they came from a breeding chamber with no background of hunting. So, we did the equipment, remote controlled airplane and the lure. So instead of just swinging the lure, we would attach it to the back of a radio controlled airplane, a drone, a kite, a balloon. And this will get the falcon or encourage the falcon to fly further, to fly harder, and to be more persistent in flight. Okay. So, this is one of the videos, and you can see the falcon stooping to the lure over here, and you'll have the flight that you can gauge the falcon with to catch the lure. And that would develop muscle, it would develop fitness, tenacity with the birds, and then you can take them out hunting. As well as the telemetry and data gathering of falcons is very important, more so today, to know how these birds are interacting. This is an example of one bird. So you can see on the right-hand side a flight in November 22nd. Maximum speed of 56 kilometers, and his altitude was 22 meters. So it's a very short flight. All in total, maybe 29 seconds. These are the data that we're gathering today to know how to develop it. This is the same bird 2 weeks later. It has achieved a maximum speed of 183 kilometers and its altitude at 313 meters, over 1,000 feet for and the flight has lasted for almost 5 minutes. This is in a 2-week span to get a bird to develop with these methods in captive breeding. So the training methods have been improved over the years. And now having a captive bred bird does not mean I'm going to have something that's not capable of hunting. We can make these birds into, grade 1 athletes, basically, with these training methods. So I mentioned the natural development and social behavior was a part of falconry that us falconers in the Middle East have no idea about. We had no idea what the birds were saying or were talking or what their interaction with each other was. When I was growing up, they called a garmusha the female and the hir was a male. And this is what I learned. Science has come in and the development, and it said no, the garmusha is actually the male. The hir, which is a masculine name in Arabic, is actually the female. So we had it the other way around. And I don't blame them for that or what I had taught, because nobody in this region has seen falconry or falcons breeding naturally. And the assumption was, other bird species. If you go to chickens, the rooster is a bigger size than a hen. So that's what they thought. And when they saw these falcons, they said, okay, the big one is the male, the small one is the female. But in actual fact, it's the opposite. And the reason they had it incorrect was because they did not witness these birds in nature. They don't breed in the Arabian Gulf. Sakers don't breed here. Peregrines don't breed here. Gyr falcons definitely do not breed anywhere close to here. And these are the birds that we love to hunt with. The peregrines, the sakers, the gyr falcons. This is the most prized falcon at all, and it only breeds in the Arctic Circle. So if we don't see these birds breeding outside, so it's hard for us to make the assumption that way. So that put a lot of stress on breeders or falcon research centers. Okay, we want these birds to develop like wild birds. Let's get the wild bird population out. We don't want these birds anymore. We have enough breeders on the planet. So how are you going to improve these falcons for us? How are you going to address the natural development and social behavior of these birds? Why am I getting a bird that screams? Why am I getting birds from abroad that have traits that we don't want as Arab falconers? So a lot of the breeding facilities and breeders have started to improve their facilities. They will make hack pens. They will make hacking towers. They'll allow these birds to socialize and bond with each other in their pre-flight development. The birds have, from hatching, they have about 120 days before leaving the nest. So 120 days of this falcon from a captive breeding process to the falconer. What happens in these 120 days? The social interaction is important. The bonding with other birds of its own species is very important as well for their mental development. This has also helped myself innovate and other people innovate this a step further. When I was in the United States, most of my studies in captive breeding was in the state of Idaho. The P Fund is there, a lot of my good friends are there as well, and I've learned a lot about captive breeding with falcons and the development, social behavior. And I would sit in front of prairie falcon eyries, which are nests, golden eagle, owl nests, and I would watch these birds with binoculars throughout the whole breeding season, how they raise their youngs, what these youngs are doing. And I took that idea and said, okay, can it be done here in the United Arab Emirates? Can I do this over here? So I took a more natural approach. A lot of other breeders do the same thing. So you allow the bird to be itself. So this is one of the young birds. It's still incapable of flight, but you don't keep it in a room or in an artificial environment. You allow it its time to develop by itself. You know, this is not falconry. You know, I'm not here teaching these birds anything they do not know. This is a natural behavior. These birds are meant to fly. These birds are meant to be predators. These birds are meant to develop at their own time. You never force them to do anything. You have to give them, this is their time of development. So all I do is just supervise them from other predators that might interfere, other things that might interfere. And they start discovering things themselves. They start discovering flowers, water, other birds, you know, and they start to figure out where they are in the hierarchy structure. Are we the only predators? Are there other things that will, and they develop a more natural instinct in themselves. And this is exactly when these birds go to the falconer come September, when they're ready, they will not know the difference between this captive bred bird and a wild bird. In some cases, in most cases I would say, the captive bred birds are more superior because you've eliminated the stress factor. This has also helped us develop selective breeding projects and control genetics with falcons. Like I said, falcon breeding is very new. For you to selectively breed a falcon, and like I said, they just started in the 70s, it's 20, 30 years time. The thoroughbred horse was selectively bred. It took them maybe 2,000 or 3,000 years. You know, you look at other species and other breeds of animals, such as dogs, and they took them many thousands of years to develop, you know, a wolf to a chihuahua. It takes them a very, very long time. Falconry, you know, I kind of shy away when somebody tells me, okay, this is a race line falcon, or this is a hunting falcon. And I'm saying, what evidence do you have? You know, if you tell me this is like a thoroughbred of a falcon, or this is just, you know, one that's specifically for hunting. All these birds are meant to hunt. All these birds are meant to fly. Captive breeding projects and genetics today in falconry is very new. We don't have enough database to do a comparison. We do not have enough data that we can refer to make any kind of these claims. Are some falcons better than others? Yes, they are. Are some falcons bigger than others? Yes. Are some falcons, you know, more white or more dark? Yes, they are. So the genetics where we are fitting today is very small. And all we can do as breeders is just to improve it year by year. These falcons take a very long time for reproduction. It takes them 3-4 years minimum is a wait to pass on the gene. So maybe in future, you know, with the help of Dr. Justin, you know, in the next 2,000 years, maybe we're going to have a developed falcon to do something. So why are we doing all this here in the Gulf? Why are we doing it? We are doing it for one thing only, to catch the Hubara, this little bird. All the things I've spoken about is for this one game bird. This is all we really care about. All the development, all captive breeding, everything, falcons, colors, speed, training, airplanes, drone, is to catch this one bird. I know it looks sad, yeah? Anyways, but why the Hubara? I mean, we love the Hubara. The Hubara was listed as an endangered species. You know, let's get the facts straight over here. The Hubara is an endangered species. You know, Falconers have always known there has to be a prey and a predator. This is one thing that us as falconers care about. We care about our falcons, but we also care about our prey, even more so. One cannot exist without the other whatsoever. If this Hubara goes extinct tomorrow, there will be no falconry at all. So we care about these falcons, these Hubaras a lot, because this is what we are all after. And there are many reasons for the decline of the Hubara falcon. Unfortunately, there are misconceptions, within the country or abroad, government agencies or private entities that will always and very keenly point at a falconer and saying, hey, you are the guys that are declining the population of the Hubara. My argument, or not my argument, I'll state facts over here. There isn't a single species in the world throughout 3,000 years of history of falconry that has gone extinct because of a falcon. If you talk about gunpowder, that's a different story. If you talk about human interaction to the environment, that's a different story. Many animals have gone extinct because of human intervention and interaction. Not a falcon and not a falconer. One of the main concerns of the decline of the Hubara is the loss of habitat. The Hubara does not migrate as much into the United Arab Emirates anymore because of urban development, where I would leave the house and go 5 minutes and see some beautiful wildlife, great area to fly my falcon. It takes me a longer trip now. It takes me at least an hour to find a spot where I can fly my falcon. So when this Hubara comes in migration, where is it going to land? It used to land, out here in the desert. Where is this desert now? Burj Khalifa is on it. The urban development has really put a huge strain on the migration of these Hubaras. Agricultural development in Asia. Agricultural development has almost wiped out a lot of the places where these Hubaras are breeding. They do not nest here. They nest in many parts of Asia. And those parts are being developed for agricultural purposes, where they're growing single crops for human consumption. So their nest grounds are being destroyed, and that has led to a rapid decrease in the population of the Hubara. The Hubara breeding program is founded and ordered by his late His Highness Sheikh Zayed, Allah yarhamah. Sheikh Zayed was a falconer. So, I laugh when people say, hey, the falconers are the reason of the decline. No, the falconers were the ones that collaborated to save the peregrine falcon. And a falconer today has ordered, we want to breed the Hubara in captivity as well. So let's take the ideas. And it is exactly the same concept they used in saving the peregrine falcon, they have used with the Hubara. The first successful hatch of the Hubara in the United Arab Emirates was in 1982. The first efforts were made in Saudi Arabia to hatch the Hubara and a Hubara breeding project. 1989, National Avian Research Center was established, and I think Jamie Samur was the head of that as well. He was in Saudi prior, and he came over here as well. As of today, there are over 65,000 Hubaras bred annually in captive breeding projects. Compare that to falcons today. There is an import of around 8,000 birds in 2019 of falcons. So there is a lot of hope to get the Hubara as well off the endangered species list in captive breeding projects. And this is where we have a sustainable future in falconry. This is the falcon with the Hubara, and this is how we control everything. It's a population control and sustainability, having the predators and having the prey as well, and providing the hunting grounds for falconers to practice their heritage and tradition as well. So it is very important for us. There are many things that I think will develop as well and improve in the United Arab Emirates and in the Gulf in general when it comes to falcon and their prey. We do need more data. We're always missing data for some reason. We want to have a clear view on how many falconers there are. We want clear numbers on where these falcons are going, how these falcons are being treated by a lot of the people here are specialized in falcon or avian biology and things like that. And even more so importantly, the falconers need an awareness program going. The public that have to be also aware on what our activities are and what we're trying to achieve and what we are trying to do in the future of falconry. So, the falconers, we have a heritage that we are preserving and passing off from one generation to the next, and we will continue to do so. The government of Abu Dhabi was kind enough to ask UNESCO, to list falconry, a culture of intangible heritage, in 2016. And to remember that the falconers are the main reason for the conservation. If you are not into birds of prey, but you live in the United Arab Emirates, next time you're out in public, have a look. This is a symbol, a national symbol for us as Emiratis. It's everywhere. We interact with it on a daily basis. It's in our money. It's in front of every government building. And the falcon is a symbol of our daily lives in the country. And thank you very much. That's all I had for you today.